Good evening, everybody. Smiley here. Happy half term to you all, and happy pending Halloween. How are you all doing? How is everyone? Hope you've had a nice day. Happy Monday. Is it Monday? I get confused with all my days. I thought I would come along online this evening and talk about Halloween and the darkness, really, for highly sensitive children, so wild hearts, strong-willed sensitive children, because the clocks went back yesterday. Just trying to work that out. And so it's getting darker earlier. And I really do believe that highly sensitive people, wild hearts, have a real kind of, because they pick up on energy and they pick up on sort of their environment, that they genuinely feel into the energy of the darkness. I was always scared of the dark when I was a little girl. And so I want to say to you, if you are a wild heart and you're scared of the dark, it's okay. You know, I don't think it's about fearing the darkness. It's more about facing our fear and trusting ourselves to be able to protect ourselves from that energy and knowing how to keep ourselves safe. So that's what it's about for me, really. And I can remember as a child, gosh, takes you back, doesn't it? I can remember as a child, like, if there was something scary on the TV, we would all be like, cushions up, and put our cushions up. And sometimes I would actually turn the sound down, because sometimes it's the music that makes a film really, really scary. But if you're a sensitive person, you won't really be able to watch very scary films. And also I'm thinking about boys when I say this. You know, if you're not old enough to play Call of Duty or any kind of violent or frightening video games, don't watch films that are too old for you, because those kind of things get burned into your brain and they stay with you for a long time and they make you afraid. If you're sensitive, you won't like violence, loud noises, horror films. I have actually been told, and this is by my therapist, that it's good for children to get scared to a point watching a film with an adult present in the room, because they're almost like facing their fear and they're with a safe person. So they're almost teaching themselves that they can get through the scares, because it's only energy passing through your body of fear, isn't it, really? But obviously when you're in the throes of the narrative of a horror film, it isn't really about that. So I would say no scary films, no violent or loud video games. I can think of clients the boys in particular, who, you know, are watching stuff which is too grown up for them. And also, without stereotyping, boys develop a lot slower than girls. So have they got the emotional maturity to, you know, watch a movie and not internalise that in a way that terrifies them? You know, it's not just anxiety provoking, it can terrify you. I can remember as a child, after watching something scary, my mum saying, oh, go upstairs and put your washing away in your room. And our house was quite big and my bedroom was right at the end of the hallway. So we'd have to go up like 2 flights of stairs and then go to the end of and I would turn all the lights on and run, dump my washing down and then run back downstairs again. And I'd be like traumatized by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs. I'm laughing at myself, because as a child I genuinely and I thought there was a man living in our toilet, which I know I've talked about Shadow Man before. I'm going to talk about him in a bit, actually. But and then my dad would be like, who's put all the lights on? Turn the lights on. Don't turn the heating up, put another jumper on. Don't turn the lights on. Go upstairs in the dark. We were always leaving the lights on. Kids do, don't they? Turn the lights off. It's like Blackpool illuminations in here. And also I had a bedside light on. So I know lots of children nowadays they got really nice night lights, haven't they? Like bunnies and unicorns that light up and things. And my mum always used to leave the landing light on, the hall light on, and then my door, I didn't like my door being completely open, but it would be pulled to, and then obviously there's a crack in the door, so you get a little bit of light coming through. But I don't know if you guys remember things that you were scared of. I had these clowns that our cousins bought us one Christmas, and they were like full size clowns, like stuffed dolls with like the whole clown face and like Harlequin outfits. And they had bells on their feet. So you would strap the feet, to your slippers, and you would dance with them and the bells would jingle. But like mine was hanging on the back of my bedroom door, and it used to really terrify me. I used to think, people in the wardrobes, you can hear the heating going off and that makes a clicking sound. And you think, what's that outside? And it's probably foxes around the bins. But when you are a sensitive person, your senses are heightened, aren't they? So when your senses are heightened, strong smells. I think the smells of eggs when I was a child. I remember when I went on brownie camp and I got my mum to lie and say that I was allergic to eggs because I couldn't stand the smell of eggs. They used to make me want to vom. I love eggs now as a grown-up. As a child, the smell was just too... So smells, watching things, sounds, loud noises mostly. Lots of children don't like fireworks at this time of year as well. They're terrified. Because when you're sensitive, a loud noise isn't just a loud noise. It actually vibrates through your whole body. I'm just explaining how it is for me. I don't know if it's like that for you. And it's not very nice. So I've written a blog post to help parents, which is over on the website, smileyforlife.com/spooky. What to do when things go bump in the night. But I think the main thing for sensitive children, this is what I teach in my online packs, is to learn how to ground your energy, protect your energy, and clean your energy. So in my packs, I teach you how to protect your energy. In the Smiley Sweet Dreams pack, there is a energy cleaning guided visualization, and there's also a grounding visualization. So these sensitive kids have got really rich inner world, so they can use their imagination. So guided visualization is powerful for them. Like when they watch a horror film, it's that powerful that it can evoke terror in them. They need to learn to use their imagination in a way that serves them, so that they can so that they don't terrify themselves, but they can take themselves off to a different place. And I think the thing is with any fear, and there's a book that I read the first time that I got introduced to the self-development world, which was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, although she's not with us anymore, Susan, I don't think. But that was one of the first books I read, and it was a real introduction into somebody understanding me as a really frightened person. And when someone understands you and doesn't make you wrong for being sensitive, because we live in a society where, especially for boys that I coach that are sensitive, they get called a wuss and they've got to man up and you don't do this and don't cry. And I actually think, and I say this to these boys, that sensitivity is a gift. And actually, before you know it's a gift, it's hypervigilance and it's anxiety and it's horrible. But when you learn how to harness it and how to make it work for you, those children have got such strong intuition. And that is the beauty of them. That's what they're probably here to use. They've got amazing imaginations. They've got creativity. So before you know it's a gift, it's a hindrance. It's something you're afraid of. It's something you feel wrong for having. It's something you feel ashamed of. You might try and hide it. So I put a meme up the other day about boys that play football. I don't know if you saw it. I might try and find it and read it to you again, because it was quite powerful. But I noticed that if you don't like sport as a boy, and it's very tribal, isn't it? It's very pack animal-y sport, because you're in a group, you belong to a team. Now, if you're a boy that doesn't like sport, that's going to be a lonely place if you don't feel like you belong somewhere. So I'm just trying to find this meme, see if I can find it, but my computer's gone all funny. But no, I think the thing is to face your fear and to realise that you can be scared and brave at the same time. So it's not to eradicate the fear and get rid of the feelings, because we don't want to tune out from our feelings, and you can't selectively numb. If you numb out if you're trying to avoid your worries and you're keeping yourself busy, or you're trying to avoid your anger and pushing it down with food or stuffing it away, then you start to numb out all the others. And I've noticed along my healing journey, just in the last few weeks, that when I get to a joyful place, I cry. Or when I get to a place where I'm feeling really confident and I'm doing well, I cry. But it's almost that crying, how can I explain it to you? It's almost that crying that a really little child does. So those of you that have got children, you know when you've got a toddler and you're asking them to do something, like you're saying, go on, climb up the slide, and they start to go, because they're so frightened and they're like panicking, and then they do a bit of a cry, and then they look at you and you're going, go on, go up the slide, and then they go up the slide and they go down it, and then they come down the slide and they're like, yay, I did it, because they felt their fear and they've moved beyond it. And I've noticed that when I notice this around the book, like when I have success, or I feel confident, or I've achieved something and I feel good about myself and it's my time to shine, instead of shining, I cry. And it's that go up the slide crying, it's that fearful, like it's the release of fear. When I watch Strictly, I don't know how many of you watch Strictly. Do you watch it? I love it. I mean, obviously the music is very, very powerful, and the dances and the whole thing is designed to evoke emotion in you. But when I see those dancers who can't dance, who are like achieving so much and overcoming their fears and learning so much so quickly, and then being really successful, and the music kind of crescendos and it comes to an end and the partners hug, and I'm just like crying. But it's joy that I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing the joy of the music or the emotion of the dance. And then obviously the connection that the dancers have, because you've got to have quite a strong connection, haven't you? You've got to have a trust there to be able to pull off some of the dances that you see on there. There's, that's pretty special. Oh, here's the footballing one. I've just found it. Hold on, let me just get that for you. Just got a sip of my tea. Let's have a look. Really slow, this whole Facebook tonight. Have you all got lots of nice plans for the half term? It's nice to have time off school. I think some of you had half term last week. Let's just go down and find this meme, because I don't want to misquote myself, but I can't seem to get it to come up. Here we go, it's coming up now. Yeah, so I think the key is to face your fear, to learn how to use your imagination, to protect, to clean and to ground your energy, which I teach the children to do. And I also teach it in this book. So I'm going to read you the scary Halloween part from my book. Ruby suffers very severely with anxiety and lives in a house which is full of fear. So I wrote this, I think boys who grow up not loving sport can really struggle with their sense of self. It's so painful to feel like you don't belong or are misunderstood by other children in your peer group. I've noticed these highly sensitive souls pretend to like sport or try to hide that part of themselves. It temporarily stops the teasing and buffers the rejection. Inside, they still feel wrong for being different and overwhelmed with the loneliness of not belonging in a team. And I've noticed that boys, I don't want to generalise here, so I might be wrong, but this is a pattern I notice in my work, is that boys that are in a team sport tend to be more pack animals. You know, they're more sort of, that's how boys hang out. Whereas sensitive boys don't. They like the one-to-ones, and the girls prefer the one-to-ones. And then we get the dysfunctional ones where the girls are always hanging around with a 3, which is never a good number, is it? That's where all the toxic relationships come in, because in a 3, someone's always left out. It's not a good dynamic, and normally those children are playing out that dynamic at home, and then they're just trying to play it out at school and be the one that comes out on top in the 3, in the triangle of 3. Because that's what we do, really, isn't it? If we don't consciously become aware of our stuff and work on it, then we just play it out with other people, and we keep playing it out until we've learnt it. So I think the thing with sensitive children I wanted to say as well is that these children have an excess of empathy, and that's beautiful. That's part of their gift because they've got big hearts, hence the name Wild Hearts, and they feel everything. Like they see the world through their hearts, basically. They're feeling beings. But that means they pick up on emotions. That means they pick up on other people's moods. That means they suck up all the energy. Now, if they come from a family that's experienced a lot of trauma and that hasn't been looked at by the parents, it's always the most sensitive child in the family that absorbs what is not being expressed. So that which is suppressed is acted out by the most sensitive child. So most of the children that I see in coaching are the most sensitive child in the family who's sucking up all of that stuff which is not being looked at. So, you know, if you've got a death in the family, or you've got a sick family member, or you've got parents who are disconnected from their feelings, guess who's acting it out? The most sensitive child. And this is where family scapegoating can take place. And it's an awful thing, but it's very unconscious in dysfunctional families, whereby because that sensitive child is different, as in it's the most sensitive one, so it's got something that the others don't have. And it's on its own in that kind of place. You then get a parent who can't understand why the child is being like that. And it's normally a parent that lacks empathy, that doesn't have empathy. Because if you had empathy, you'd be able to go, oh, my child is feeling da-da-da. But if you don't have the empathy and you lack the empathy, what happens is this child is then standing alone and feels like it doesn't belong to the tribe. And then also what happens is the parent makes that child wrong. And sometimes if the parent is very unhealthy, and again, this is not conscious, it's very dysfunctional, is that then the parent then gets the other parent to join in, or other members of the family, and then it's kind of like bullying this child. It's not always that obvious, but I see it a lot in coaching. And then that child gets bullied at school because it's a victim and it's got a victim mentality, and then it goes to school and the same thing happens. Now, all that is really, if you took that to family therapy, it would be healthy, wouldn't it? Because, you know, whatever a child triggers in a parent, it's not the child's fault that they're born sensitive and that's their innate temperament. It's the parent's responsibility to look at themselves and reflect upon why that child is triggering them. And often that can be because that parent is very defended and armoured up and has lost contact with the very sensitive part of itself, or maybe it was shamed out of it, or maybe it wasn't accepted by its family, so it's buried it. And now the child is, you know, playing that out in front of its face every day and it doesn't want to look at it. But it's down to the parent to sort it out. And in families where we get you know, that's the scapegoat is what we call the black sheep of the family. And if you can think of people you know, people joke about it and go, oh, he's the black sheep of the family. You know, no one really knows him. When I hear that, it just makes me sad, because I think that poor person, has been made to feel like they're wrong, that they're not like the rest of the tribe. And they're not. But why would you not, in the tribe, in a healthy family, you would have individual members of the tribe. You're not all. And this is when you get the dysfunction without the boundaries, where you're all enmeshed together in one lump. You all think the same, act the same, are the same. And I just think these sensitive children can sometimes be very angry, and their anger is actually appropriate for the way they're being treated. So, you know, if you're being bullied and you don't feel safe and you're being made to feel like you're different or wrong, you're going to be quite angry about that, aren't you? Sorry, someone keeps trying to message me. You're going to be quite angry about that, aren't you? Yeah. And so sometimes when children get angry, and then parents are like, why is my child so angry? Stop it being angry. Let's send it on a course. Let's blah, blah, blah. No, let's look at the environment that your child is growing up in. And let's see if the environment is making your child angry, and your child's anger is a warning sign that their boundaries are being broken. It's normally that. Or there's a parent in the family that's not come to terms with their anger and the child is acting it out. So we're back to this whole, what is suppressed in the family is acted out by the most sensitive child. But you notice in groups, and this is how bullying starts at school. And I know some of you know that I'm a massive Michael Jackson fan, and you know, he was very different, and he was a genius, and he was very eccentric, and he's a soft target for bullying because he's different. When you are different from the rest of the tribe, depends who's heading up the tribe. Like, nice, kind people don't ostracize and pick on people who are different. But if you've got some sort of tyrant running the tribe, or someone who wants to exude power because they're feeling insecure, then, you know, that's how bullying occurs. And it does occur in families, sadly. In fact, it often starts in families. And then when you're bullied, you have a victim mentality. And then that will get acted out in your life. So you'll go into relationships where you're bullied, or you'll have a controlling partner, or you'll be scapegoated at work and you'll get the blame for stuff that's not your fault. And it's a pattern that will follow you throughout your life. And actually, the black sheep of the family, or the scapegoat, is the most painful role. These are all unconscious roles that we take on in families. It's the most painful role ever. It's lonely, you're isolated, you feel like you've got no one, you basically feel abandoned. So, yeah. So that's another reason why I've tried to take on, or tried to sort of implement some sort of family coaching program, because actually it's very rare that a child that's coming to coaching who's struggling is struggling in isolation. It's normally a symptom of its environment. It's normally, you know, acting out what's going on at home. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but how effective is it to give the child a set of tools and then put it back in the environment where those maladaptive coping mechanisms were created? It's not really. But when you've got highly dysfunctional people heading up the tribe who are in denial and don't want to look at their stuff and are finger pointing at the child, actually then it becomes, okay, well, that's the least we can do. So let's try and give the child, you know, what we can, knowing that they're going to have to go back into that environment. And those families have very, very high levels of denial. They have to, because the dysfunction can only exist when you've got high levels of denial. Because in a healthy family, that would never, ever happen. That would only ever happen with parents who haven't looked at their stuff and don't have the self-awareness. Why am I talking about that a lot today? That wasn't what I planned to come on here and talk about, but I've got on a bit of a roll with it. Wow. It's something I feel very strongly about, and if you know me, you'll know why. It's very unfair, isn't it, to be bullied by your own family? It's abuse, and it's not okay. But obviously, because it's not commonly accepted or seen, because the family's in denial, it goes under the radar. And actually, it can also extend to the outer families. So, you know, then other family people that know of the family, you know, all then see the black sheep as bad or angry or this or that or the other. Yeah, it's awful. It's really awful. So if you're watching this and that's you and you've had that happen to you, yeah, I can help you with that, because I guess if that's happened to you, you don't want to be passing that baton on to your kids, or you don't want that pattern to repeat itself in your family. If you're healthy and you've had a look at your stuff, you know, if you've got the self-awareness, it shouldn't repeat itself. It's when you are in denial about things and you don't look at them. So yeah, and again, if I had a child like that and I had parents that weren't willing to look at their stuff, I would be giving that child those tools. I would say, protect your energy, ground your energy, clean your energy, you know, stay connected to your intuition, know what your truth is. Don't worry about the rest of the tribe. Yeah, they're going to make you wrong. That's, you know, but I have to do that in a way that doesn't make the parents wrong, because I've got to send the child back to that family. It's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. Going back to Halloween. Well, actually, that is quite Halloweeny, isn't it? Because that's just really spooky to think that goes on in families. And it goes on in families a lot more than people care to admit it does, because people are in denial about it. So, yeah. So that's ghosts. Ghosts of Halloween right there. But no, what I wanted to talk to you about was, because in the book, this is what basically happens to Ruby in the book. She is scapegoated by her family. She is different. she's acting out all the anger for the family, and she's being banished and sent away to her room. She feels like she's wrong. So my kind of reason for writing this book was, for all the kids out there that are feeling stuck and out on their ear and like no one gets it, then, because it's such a horrible place to be in. When you're a child, your family is supposed to love you and keep you safe. If you're not safe at home and you're not succeeding at school, it's a pretty shitty existence, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter how much money you've got or, what else is going on. That's not very nice. It's painful. So I wrote this book for this. And in here, it's chapter 7 for those of you that have got the book. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but I'd just like to read a little bit out to you. So this chapter is called Shadow Man. So this is about Ruby's fear of the darkness. And I've talked about Shadow Man or Hat Man before, but he is a thing. He really is a thing. And if you Google Hat Man or Shadow Man, you'll see that lots of people have cited him. Some people, I've actually had clients that have told me about Hat Man in their house as well. So I know he's a thing. I've seen him as a child. As a period of time where I saw him. Now, I've read that he can be one of two things. He can be a negative entity, so he can be a ghost or negative spirit. But he's also present in houses where there's high levels of abuse going on or lots of fear. So what he does is the energy of him manifests itself. I know this is a bit woo for some of you, but just stay with me. The energy of him manifests himself as a shape, as a shadow of this Hat Man. And the most sensitive child will see that because they feel energy. Like, I cannot explain to you, if you're not a highly sensitive parent and you've got a sensitive child, I cannot explain to you the excess of empathy and the spidery senses that these children have. They're like, in the book, Ruby is described as a lychee without her skin. They're so open. They're so open to everything, which in a way is beautiful because all of their loving energy is going out into the world. But at the same time, it can hurt them because they're not protected from anything. Am I making any sense? So, chapter 7, Shadow Man. Fear is simply excitement without the breath. It's true that, isn't it? Fear and excitement feel the same. We probably feel them in the same. If you think about how you feel fear in your body, do you feel it in the same place in your body that you feel excitement? I do. All in the tummy for me, or sometimes in the chest a little bit. Where do you feel your fear? I wasn't expecting to see him when I got back. Getting home from the wild wilderness and safely back in my room had been much easier than the tree tunnel drama that had taken me there. I wrongly assumed that my recent life lessons would prepare me for any darkness. But as usual, I was wrong. In a flash, heart energy had magically transported me to my bed, where Tom was sat on my pillow waiting for me. I tickled him under his chin. He stretched his neck out to show his appreciation. I looked at the numbers on the clock. Phew, I was just in time for school. Miraculously, I wasn't feeling tired. In fact, the wilderness seemed to energise me. Sleep wasn't something I really needed. Or so I thought until I found myself lying in the school medical room under an itchy grey blanket. I remembered watching Mrs. Barnes's cookery demonstration. She had all the ingredients laid out in front of her. Her flowery apron protected her dress, and the sleeves of her cardigan were rolled up ready for action. The last thing I heard her say was, "Today we're going to be making rock buns." And then I woke up here. I was crushed because I really enjoyed baking and I hadn't made rock buns before. Gloria showed us how to bake when we went to stay with her and Sam during the holidays. Baking and sea air held fond memories, but right now my brain was too foggy to think. I started to feel a bit sick. The lady from the office behind reception came in and smiled. The overpowering smell of antiseptic and mothballs made it hard to smile back. I dreaded to think when they last washed this blanket, my mum would not be impressed. She handed me a glass of water and told me I was dehydrated. I remembered having the glass of water at the Nook, but I also felt guilty as I'd had no sleep and no breakfast. I gratefully sipped the water. "You had a little bump to your head." She put her hand up to her own forehead to show me where I had fallen. I copied her and felt a gauze bandage covering the left side of my head. "It was bleeding a bit, but you're okay now. I filled out a form and we've called your mum. Your dad is coming to collect you. You'll need to drink lots of water and get plenty of rest." She was stiff, matter of fact. I wondered if poorly children stopped her from getting her chores done. My dad came and collected me from school. He smiled and ruffled my hair. "You'll be all right, Rubes." Then he started the car and turned up the radio. We drove home listening to the football. He must have left the shop early to catch the game. He drove with one hand on the steering wheel, his elbow propped up against the window. It was an automatic drive, so his free hand would intermittently pat my leg and he would smile. My parents were good chauffeurs. They would often taxi me and my sisters about from one club to another. For once, I was glad that my dad was a man of few words. My head was woozy and I couldn't concentrate for very long. It was most unlike me. I couldn't remember the last time I didn't feel like talking. Soon we were home and I went to my room and lay on my bed. The soft pillow held my sore head and I closed my eyes. I woke up to find a jug of water and an orange beaker on the bedside table. My mum is a nurse and she is good at taking care of me when I am sick. I rubbed my head to find a large bump peeking out from under the gauze bandage. It felt tender and bruised. I slowly sat up in bed and sipped the water. Carefully, I got up to draw the curtains as it was growing dark outside and I felt ready for bed. I changed into my pyjamas and mustered up the energy to go to the bathroom. I didn't want to clean my teeth, but I had drunk a lot of water. The bathroom was off a small landing halfway between the top and bottom of the stairs. This is where I would often see him. I pee a lot before bedtime. It was part of my funny little routine. You know, snow angels to check the duvet, cleaning my feet, lots of peas. We called them anxie peas because they were often only a trickle and sometimes nothing at all. I was so worried at night time, my body tricked itself into thinking it wanted to go when it didn't. Some nights I would do 4 or 5 anxie peas before I could rest enough to sleep. Shadow Man was as you'd expect. He was a tall, ghostly black figure of a man in a long cape and top hat. He suddenly appeared. I couldn't make out his face or any real detail because he was only visible when I looked out of the corner of my eye. Downstairs in the hallway, I would glance up at the staircase. As I walked through the hallway to the kitchen, he would appear. In my periphery vision, I could make out his floating cloak. My heart would beat fast inside my chest. Like in the tunnel, terror would flood my body and I'd want to run. I wasn't really a screamer when things got scary. The sound would freeze in my throat and nothing came out. The ever-present but elusive Shadow Man would float along the stairs from the bathroom to the upstairs landing. The faster I ran through the hallway to the kitchen, the quicker he would float. I tried to see through the banisters to get a proper look. The harder I focused, the quicker he would vanish. It was like a game I played. If I ran fast enough, would I be free of him? I couldn't be sure, but I assumed he didn't have legs because his cloak touched the floor and covered his feet where his feet would be. I made up a story in my head that he lived in the toilet because I thought about where he could be when I was in the bathroom and he was nowhere to be seen. My deep-thinking, non-stop brain hadn't yet worked out how the floating cloak got from the toilet onto the staircase. I used the alarm that Shadow Man triggered inside of me to do the quickest wheeze, face washes and teeth cleaning possible. I wanted to stop the nerves pumping around my body and feel safe again. People in the hologram house, that's where she lives, would tease me and say I had a vivid imagination. I thought the joke was on them really because they lived in a permanent land of make-believe. They could clearly convince themselves and anybody who would listen that the Emperor was wearing clothes. That level of denial was off the charts and it was very confusing. Some days I didn't know which way was up. Even worse, other people, the hologram worshippers, actually believed them. Meanwhile, I was seeing really scary stuff that made it hard to sleep at night and nobody believed me. "There's a man," I'd tell my mum. "He's going to take me away and I'm scared something bad will happen." She listened and tried to reassure me. Sometimes I talked to her for hours about the worries in my head, but I wasn't really sure she believed me. Shadow Man could be felt but not seen in other rooms of the house. I felt his watchful gaze in the lounge when I practiced the piano. His overbearing, unwelcomed presence reminded me not to get it wrong. I felt him around me when I was doing dance routines in my bedroom. He felt eerie and scary, as if I could be told off at any minute for making a mistake. His piercing stare made sure I was doing it right. Always on show, he never took his eyes off me. He could see me everywhere. He could see if I was being good or bad. I tried to outsmart his fun-sucking, chilling energy by working harder and harder. I thought if I was the best musician, the best writer, the best baker, and the best child, he would just leave me alone. I was tired of trying, but not one to give up easily. I was determined to find a way to be perfect. I'd make them so proud of me. And then she goes back to bed. Lying on my back, my eyes were barely opened, but I was wide awake. I could feel the blood pumping through my body. There he was. There was Shadow Man, standing over me in all his evil finery. I pulled my hands over my face and lay deathly still. I was good at sleeping lions, and I'd learnt from my dad when watching films that if it got too scary, you could have a cushions up moment. I wondered what he would call this one when sheer evil hovered above your bed. I wanted to cry, but nothing came out. My shoulders were all scrunched up and touched my ears. I waited for something bad to happen and release me from the grip of fear. After what felt like hours, but it was probably seconds, I let out a huge sigh. My breathing, I remembered. I tried to inhale and then release. It looked like I was blowing my nose into the palm of my hands. Luckily, it was only air and there wasn't any snot or bogies. I thought this was funny, and in my relaxed state, the voice inside my head said, "Heart energy," and I saved myself once again. Time stood still, and I still wasn't feeling brave enough to look. I moved my hands over my face and placed them across my heart. With my eyes tight shut, I inhaled more deeply this time. My jaw clenched, my toes curled over. I prayed with all my might that the heart energy would save me again. "Please," I pleaded, hoping my whispers would be heard like before. I opened my eyes, and the wicked, faceless shadow was still lurking there. I shut my eyes again, unable to move. What does he want from me? Just please make this monster go away. What's going to happen? You have to buy the book to find out. So I don't know if any of you guys, if you feel brave enough to comment below. I get a little bit sick of asking you to talk to me when you don't want to, so I'm not going to make you do things you don't want to. If it doesn't make me feel like I want to come on here and talk to you when I don't feel very welcome here. I know I'm talking about things that people don't like to talk about, but I'm also trying really hard to help your kids. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the children. I really want to help them. So you can get my book, Stuck Between Two Worlds, smileyforlife.com/book. If you're scared of the dark, you can also get my Smiley Sweet Dreams pack, which is on offer at the moment. If you use the code SPOOKYGOAWAY, you'll get £5 off. In it, there is relaxations to ground your energy, to clean your energy. And it's made for sensitive children. It's made to give their rich imaginations another job to do in bed at night time, so they feel safe and secure and they can get a decent night's sleep. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions about nighttime routine. That blog post that I quoted earlier, smileyforlife.com/spooky, that will help you. There's lots of tips in there for bedtime. But I think sensitive children need longer to decompress from the day. They need alone time. They need a longer transition period going from downstairs to upstairs or to the bedtime routine. They don't like to feel rushed. Lots of connection before bedtime. They want to feel safe. Hot water bottle, weighted blanket, guided visualization. Essential oils like lavender are really nice for nighttime. Actually, I've got a really nice strawberry and vanilla pillow spray at the moment. That's really nice. And that's it for me. And I thought I'd come online because I'm actually having a little bit of a break in the next few weeks. There'll still be posts going out on social media, but they will be automated. But obviously, I will still be checking in. There's loads of stuff on YouTube. Podcast, episode 40, the one with the Boredom Busters, is out for half term. There's another one coming out. I think I've got 2 scheduled. I've already pre-recorded 2 podcasts for you while I'm away, so that the kids have got something to listen to. I'm off to do a little whistle-stop tour of Canada and the States. Do you think I should take my book with me and leave it, just leave it in one of the libraries so someone can have it? Because I've taken my book to I've gifted it to Weybridge Library, and West Byfleet Library would like a copy. They said I could go and do like a story time reading. But, you know, I'm happy to gift it. More children that can read it, because it isn't just a magical story, of which it is, but there's so much validation if you're a sensitive child, and there's so many tips and tools in there to help you. And obviously it's done in the way of listening of reading a story, so you know it kind of draws you in. And I think I thought about when I was a kid, what would I like to have read in those lonely moments where I didn't know what to do and I felt alone and that no one got me. What would I like to read? What was my thing? And Enid Blyton was my go-to author, the Enchanted Wood, the Magic Faraway Tree. And so it was kind of a combination of that and other things. And I didn't really plan to write it. It's just what came out of me. And there's a saying, isn't there? If what is within you comes out of you. I can't remember the saying now. I need to Google it. But it's basically saying, in order to heal, what's within you needs to come out of you. Because if what's within you stays in you, that's what will destroy you, basically. So, you know, if you've got a story or you've got a truth to tell, you need to get it out. It's like doing a poo, really, isn't it? You know, you can't hold that in forever, can you? Sorry, I always resort to poo talk, but it's my only analogy that I can think of. Like, you can only hold on to a poo for so long and then your body wants to release it. And we hold on to so much stuff and it's hard to let go. So I hope you found my Sermon on the Mount, my little read along, helpful tonight. I do know at this time of year with all the spooky talk and all the scaredy stuff that it really does affect sensitive children. You know, it really, honestly, they are not having you on. They really feel it. And I know if you're not highly sensitive yourself or you don't have high levels of excess of empathy like they do, you got to believe them when they tell you. They're not trying it on, you know, they're not spinning it out to get 10 more minutes of staying up. When they genuinely are asking for you, it's because they don't want to be alone in the dark. And that doesn't mean that you have to let your boundaries down. You can still hold your boundaries and say it's bedtime, but you can, as I say, the bedtime pack and the book and all of my other tools, it's just about embracing their sensitivity and for them to understand it and not feel like they're wrong for being sensitive. And often these sensitive kids are born into families where no one else is as sensitive as they are, and they just feel so at sea with it all. And they either hide it or bury it, which doesn't really end very well. Or they just take on everything that's going on in the family. Any questions, my loves? Anyone got any questions? Thank you for being here. Write your questions below if you've got any. And I'm going to toot all off and finish my packing and get ready to go. Have a lovely half term, everyone. See you soon. Bye. Bye.